The cold metal floor pressed against Park Hyun-woo's face as he slowly opened his eyes. His head felt heavy and his vision was blurry. The last thing he remembered was the bright flash of alien weapons on Proxima Station before everything went dark. He tried to move, but his hands were locked in strange metal cuffs that glowed with blue light. The room around him was small and made entirely of dark metal. There were no windows and only one door with no handle on his side. The air smelled strange, like burning plastic mixed with something sour. Hyun-woo forced himself to sit up. His Earth Defense Force uniform was torn and dirty. Blood had dried on his forehead from a cut he did not remember getting. He looked around the small cell and tried to remember how he got here. The mission to Proxima Station was supposed to be simple. His team was sent to gather information about alien activity in the outer systems. Lieutenant Kim Jae-min was the team leader. Corporal Lee Min-ho was their tech specialist. Private Choi Da-eun was their communications expert. They were good soldiers and good friends, but everything went wrong when they reached the station. The aliens were waiting for them like they knew they were coming. The reptilian creatures with green scales and yellow eyes attacked without warning. Their weapons were much more advanced than human technology. Hyun-woo watched his friends fall one by one. Jae-min tried to cover their retreat, but an alien blast hit him in the chest. Min-ho was grabbed by two aliens and dragged away screaming. Da-eun managed to send one distress signal before an alien weapon knocked her unconscious. Then they came for him. The cell door suddenly opened with a loud hiss. 3 alien creatures walked in. They were tall, maybe 7 feet, with green scales covering their bodies. Their faces looked like a mix between a lizard and a crocodile. Sharp teeth filled their mouths when they smiled, which was not a friendly smile at all. The one in the middle wore what looked like a military uniform with many symbols on it. This had to be their commander. He spoke in a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. "The human pet is awake," the commander said in broken English. "Good. We have questions for you." Hyun-woo stayed quiet and stared at the alien. He had been trained for capture situations. Give only name, rank, and service number. Nothing else. "I am Lieutenant Park Hyun-woo, Earth Defense Force, service number 749281, he said clearly. The 3 aliens made a sound that might have been laughter. The commander stepped closer. His yellow eyes looked Hyun-woo up and down like he was examining a strange animal. "Pathetic," the commander said. "Look at this weak creature. No claws, no natural armor, no real strength. How did such pitiful beings ever reach the stars?" One of the other aliens kicked Hyun-woo in the stomach. The pain was sharp, but he did not cry out. He had been through worse training on Earth. "Your species is young and stupid," the commander continued. "You have been in space for what, less than 100 years? We Velkari have ruled the void for thousands of years. You humans are like children playing with fire." The commander walked around the small cell. His clawed feet clicked on the metal floor with each step. "Tell us about your defense systems. How many ships does Earth have? Where are your weapon factories?" Hyun-woo repeated his name, rank, and service number. The alien commander made an angry growling sound. He grabbed Hyun-woo by the throat with one clawed hand and lifted him off the floor. The claws were sharp and pressed against his skin. "You will talk, human. We have ways of making your kind speak." But Hyun-woo had something the aliens did not understand. He thought about his sister Kim Sora back on Earth. She was only 16 and wanted to be a teacher. She always made him laugh with her silly jokes and bad cooking. She was waiting for him to come home. He thought about his fallen teammates. Jae-min had a wife and 2 young children. Min-ho was planning to propose to his girlfriend when they returned. Daeyeon wanted to visit her grandmother in the countryside. They died protecting humanity, and he would not dishonor their memory. The commander dropped him back to the floor. Hyun-woo landed hard but got back to his sitting position quickly. "Stubborn," the alien said. "We will see how long that lasts." For the next several days, the aliens tried different ways to break him. They did not give him much food or water. They played loud, horrible sounds that made his ears ring. They showed him images of Earth and threatened to destroy it. Sometimes they would bring him to a larger room and make him stand for hours while they asked the same questions over and over. The ship's other crew members would come to look at him like he was an exhibit in a zoo. They would point and make their grinding laugh sounds. "Look at the human," they would say. "So small and weak. No wonder they hide on their little planet." But Hyun-woo did not break. Each time they hurt him or threatened him, he thought about home. He thought about Sora's smile. He thought about his duty as a soldier. He thought about the friends who died trusting him to stay strong. The aliens grew frustrated. Hyunwoo could see it in their yellow eyes and hear it in their angry voices when they thought he could not understand their language. They expected him to beg and cry and tell them everything they wanted to know. Instead, he remained silent except to repeat his name, rank, and service number. Commander Thekvar. As he had learned the leader's name, was especially angry. The alien would pace around the cell and mutter in his own language. Sometimes he would hit the walls with his clawed fists. "Your species is an insult to intelligence," Thekvar said one day. "You have no right to exist among the civilized races of the galaxy. You are animals that learn to use tools." Hyunwoo looked up at the alien commander with steady eyes. "Lieutenant Park Hyunwoo, Earth Defense Force, service number 749281. The alien's yellow eyes burned with rage. He grabbed a metal rod from the wall and raised it above his head. For a moment, Hyunwoo thought the creature might kill him right there. But then Thekvar stopped and smiled that terrible toothy smile. "No," the commander said slowly. "Death is too easy for you, human. I have a much better idea." Commander Thekvar walked into Hyunwoo's cell with a look of cruel satisfaction on his reptilian face. Behind him came 3 other Velkari soldiers carrying strange equipment. The metal devices looked like cameras but with glowing parts that hurt to look at directly. "Today is a special day, human," Thekvar said. His voice carried an excitement that made Hyunwoo's skin crawl. "We are going to make you famous across the galaxy." Hyunwoo remained sitting on the floor. He had learned not to show any reaction to the aliens' threats. But something was different this time. The other Velkari were setting up their equipment and talking excitedly in their own language. "You see, your stubborn silence has actually helped us," the commander continued. "We have decided you will serve a greater purpose than just answering questions." One of the soldiers activated a holographic display that showed a dark planet covered in deep crevices and volcanic activity. The surface looked dead and hostile, with red lava flows cutting through black rock formations. "This is Drakmor Prime," Thekvar explained with obvious pleasure, "a prison world where we send the most dangerous creatures in the known galaxy. Things so deadly that even we Velkari fear them." Hyunwoo studied the image. The planet looked like something from a nightmare. Steam rose from countless vents in the surface, and the sky was a sickly yellow color. "The planet is home to creatures called pyrodrakes," Thekvar said. "Ancient beings of incredible power and intelligence. They have lived in the deep caverns for millions of years. Even our most advanced weapons cannot harm them." The display changed to show massive cave openings that disappeared into absolute darkness. Some of the caves were so large that entire cities could fit inside them. "These creatures are larger than our biggest ships," another Velkari said. "They breathe fire that can melt through any known metal. Their claws can tear through starship armor like paper." Thekvar walked closer to Hyunwoo with that terrible smile. "No living being has ever survived an encounter with the pyrodrakes. They are perfect killers and they hate all other forms of life. The few ships that have tried to land on Drakmor Prime were destroyed before they could even touch the surface." Hyunwoo began to understand what the aliens were planning. His stomach tightened, but he kept his face calm. "We are going to drop you into their largest den," Thekvar said, "and we are going to record every moment of what happens to you. The footage will be sent to every civilized world in the galaxy as a warning about what happens to species that resist the Velkari Empire." The other soldiers made their grinding laugh sounds. They seemed very excited about this plan. "Imagine," one of them said, "a helpless human being torn apart by the galaxy's most feared predators. It will show everyone how weak and pathetic your species really is." Thekvar activated another display that showed the inside of a Velkari transport ship. There was a small chamber with a clear floor that could open to drop cargo into space. "We will give you a basic environmental suit," the commander said, "not because we care if you live or die, but because we want you to survive long enough for the Drakes to notice you. A quick death from the fall would ruin our entertainment." Hyunwoo thought about his sister Sora again. She was probably waiting for news about his mission. The Earth Defense Force would have told the families that the team was missing, but they would not know what really happened. "The suit has a small emergency beacon," Thekvar continued. "This will help the Drakes find you in the caves. We want them to know exactly where their next meal is waiting." The aliens spent the next hour explaining their plan in detail. They seemed to enjoy describing how the dragons would probably kill him. Some thought he would be burned alive by their fire breath. Others believed the creatures would use their claws to tear him apart slowly. "The best part," Tekvar said, "is that we will broadcast this live to the Velkari homeworld. Millions of our people will watch a human die in the most horrible way possible. It will be remembered for generations." Hyunwoo listened to all of this without speaking. Inside, he felt afraid, but he had been afraid many times before as a soldier. Fear was something you could live with. What mattered was not letting it control you. He thought about his training on Earth. The instructors always said that a soldier's duty was to never give up, no matter how bad things looked. Even in the worst situations, there might be a way to survive or at least die with honor. The ship began to shake slightly as it changed course. Through the small window in his cell, Hyunwoo could see stars moving as they turned toward their destination. "It will take us 2 days to reach Drakmor Prime," Tekvar said. "Use that time to think about your pathetic life, human. Think about how your species will be remembered as the weaklings who could not even survive one encounter with real predators." The aliens left him alone after that, but he could hear them in the corridors talking excitedly about their plan. They were treating his death like some kind of celebration. Hyunwoo spent the 2 days thinking about many things. He remembered his childhood with Sora, playing in the gardens behind their house in Seoul. He remembered joining the Earth Defense Force, and the pride in his parents' eyes when he graduated from officer training. He thought about his teammates who had died on Proxima Station. They had been good people who believed in protecting humanity. If he was going to die on this alien world, at least he would die as a soldier, not as entertainment for these creatures. On the second day, the ship's engines changed their sound. They had arrived at Drakmor Prime. Tekvar returned with his soldiers and their recording equipment. They were all very excited now. "Time to go, human," the commander said. "Your audience is waiting." They forced Hyunwoo to put on the environmental suit. It was basic protection that would keep him alive in the hostile atmosphere, but it would not protect him from claws or fire. As they led him to the transport chamber, Hyunwoo looked through the ship's windows at the dark planet below. Even from space, Drakmor Prime looked like a world of death and nightmares. "Any last words for the galaxy?" Tekvar asked as they reached the drop chamber. Hyunwoo looked at the alien commander with steady eyes. "Lieutenant Park Hyunwoo, Earth Defense Force, service number 749281. Tekvar's smile grew wider. "Perfect," he said. "The galaxy will remember those words as the last thing a human ever said." The floor beneath Hyunwoo's feet suddenly disappeared. One moment he was standing in the Velkari drop chamber. The next he was falling through empty air toward the nightmare planet below. The environmental suit systems activated automatically. A heads-up display showed his falling speed, altitude, and the dangerous atmosphere readings of Drakmor Prime. The numbers were not encouraging. The air outside was filled with toxic gases and the temperature kept changing from freezing cold to burning hot. Above him, the Velkari ship grew smaller and smaller until it was just a tiny dot against the yellow sky. Hyunwoo could imagine Tekvar and his crew watching on their screens, waiting for the show to begin. The planet's surface rushed up to meet him. From high above, the volcanic landscape looked like a cracked eggshell with glowing red lines running through it. Massive cave openings dotted the terrain like hungry mouths waiting to swallow him. His suit's parachute deployed automatically when he reached the right altitude. The sudden jerk almost knocked him unconscious, but it slowed his fall enough that he might survive the landing. The parachute was designed for emergency escapes, not for landing on unknown worlds filled with monsters. The wind caught his parachute and pushed him toward one of the largest cave openings. Hyunwoo tried to steer away from it, but the alien equipment did not respond to his commands. It was almost like the suit wanted to deliver him directly to the dragons. He crashed through layers of rock formations and crystal growths that jutted out from the cave walls. Each impact tore at his suit and sent sharp pains through his body. The parachute got caught on a crystal formation and ripped apart, sending him into free fall again. The darkness was complete now. His suit's lights activated, but they barely penetrated the ancient blackness of the deep caves. Strange sounds echoed from all directions, sounds that no human had ever heard before. Hyunwoo hit the cave floor hard. The impact drove all the air from his lungs and sent lightning bolts of pain through his ribs. He lay still for several minutes, checking to see if anything was broken. His left arm hurt badly and his head was ringing, but he could move everything. The suit's emergency beacon was beeping steadily. The sound was supposed to help rescue teams find him, but here it would only attract the attention of the creatures that lived in these caves. he managed to sit up and look around. The cave was enormous, so large that his lights could not reach the walls or ceiling. Strange crystal formations grew everywhere, some as tall as buildings. They glowed with their own dim light, creating shadows that moved and shifted like living things. The air was thick and hot. Even through his suit's filters, he could smell something ancient and dangerous. It reminded him of sulfur and old bones and something else he could not identify. Then he heard it. A sound like distant thunder, but rhythmic, like breathing. Something very large was breathing in the darkness around him. Hyunwoo forced himself to stand up. His training told him to find cover and assess the situation. But there was nowhere to hide in this vast space. The crystal formations might provide some protection, but they were too far away. The breathing sound grew louder. Other sounds joined it, more breathing from different directions. Whatever lived in this cave, there was more than one of them. A dim glow appeared in the darkness ahead of him. At first he thought it might be more crystals, but the light was moving. It grew brighter and brighter until he realized what he was seeing. Eyes, enormous eyes the size of cars, glowing with inner fire. And there were many of them, opening all around him like stars appearing in a night sky. The breathing sounds became louder and more numerous. The ground beneath his feet began to vibrate with each breath. Shapes moved in the darkness, shapes so large that his mind had trouble understanding what he was seeing. One of the creatures moved closer. The glow from its eyes revealed scales the size of shields, each one reflecting the light like polished metal. The head that emerged from the darkness was longer than a city bus, with teeth that gleamed like swords. Hyunwoo had seen pictures of dragons in old Earth stories, but this was nothing like those fairy tale creatures. This was something far older and more terrible. It radiated power and intelligence and a kind of ancient dignity that made him feel very small. The dragon's massive head lowered until it was only a few feet away from him. He could feel the heat from its breath and see his reflection in its enormous eye. The creature studied him with an intelligence that was clearly not animal. More dragons emerged from the shadows. Some were smaller, only the size of large buildings. Others were so massive that he could only see parts of them at a time. Their scales came in different colors, from deep red to golden bronze to black that seemed to absorb light. The largest dragon, the one closest to him, opened its mouth slightly. Hyunwoo expected fire or crushing teeth, but instead heard something impossible. A voice, not speaking aloud but somehow speaking directly into his mind. "What manner of creature are you?" the voice asked. It was ancient and powerful, like the sound of mountains speaking. Hyunwoo was so surprised that he almost fell over. He had expected to be killed immediately, not to have a conversation with a dragon. "I am Lieutenant Park Hyunwoo," he said aloud, his voice small in the vast cave. "Human from the planet Earth." The dragon's enormous eye blinked slowly. Around them, the other creatures made low rumbling sounds that might have been communication. "Human," the voice in his mind repeated. "We have not heard that word in many ages. You are far from your home, small one." "I was brought here against my will," Hyunwoo said. "Other aliens, the Velkari, they threw me into your cave. They expected you to kill me." The great dragon made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was too large and deep for human ears to fully understand. "Kill you?" the mental voice said. "We do not kill for sport, young human. We are not the mindless beast that the galaxy believes us to be." Other dragon voices joined the first one, speaking directly into Hyunwoo's thoughts. They were curious about him, asking questions about his species and his world. Some of the voices sounded surprised, others seemed excited. "There is something familiar about you," the largest dragon said. "Something in your mind, in the very essence of what you are. We must examine this more closely." "What do you mean?" Hyunwoo asked. "Be still, young human. Let us look deeper into your memories, into the history written in your blood. This will not harm you." Hyunwoo felt a strange sensation like warm water flowing through his thoughts. The dragons were somehow looking into his mind, but gently, carefully. He could sense their surprise growing as they discovered something unexpected. "Impossible!" one of the dragon voices whispered in his mind. "And yet it is true," said another. The largest dragon's mental voice was filled with wonder when it spoke again. "Human, do you know what you truly are?" Hyunwoo stood in the vast cave surrounded by the massive forms of the ancient dragons. Their glowing eyes watched him with an intensity that made his skin tingle. The largest dragon, whose mental voice was the strongest, moved even closer. "I know that I am human. Hyunwoo said aloud, his voice echoing in the enormous space. From Earth. That is all I have ever been. The great dragon made that deep rumbling sound again. In his mind, Hyunwoo heard what could only be described as ancient laughter. That is what your species believes, the dragon's mental voice said. But your memories tell us a different story. A much older story. Around them, the other dragons moved closer. Hyunwoo could feel their attention focused on him like the heat from a dozen suns. Their breathing created currents of warm air that made the crystal formations sing with strange harmonics. Look deeper into yourself, young human, another dragon voice said in his mind. Beyond your conscious memories. Beyond even the memories of your parents and grandparents. Look into the deep places where the oldest truths are kept. Hyunwoo did not understand what they meant, but he tried to do as they asked. He closed his eyes and tried to think past his own lifetime, past everything he knew about human history. Suddenly, images began to appear in his mind. But they were not his images. They were older than anything he had ever experienced. He saw vast starfields and worlds he had never heard of. He saw beings that looked almost human but were somehow different, stronger with eyes that held inner fire. We see them too, the largest dragon said. The flame bearers, your true ancestors. The images in Hyunwoo's mind became clearer. He saw the almost human beings walking among dragons not as prey or enemies, but as equals and friends. They worked together, traveled between worlds together, shared knowledge and wisdom. Long ago, before most of the current galactic civilizations existed, there was a race called the Flame Bearers, the dragon explained. They were not exactly like modern humans, but they were your ancestors. They carried within them a spark of the first flame, the original fire from which all dragons were born. Hyunwoo opened his eyes and stared at the massive creature before him. That is impossible, he said. Humans evolved on Earth. We have fossil records, genetic evidence. Evolution is a path, not a destination, another dragon voice said. Your species did evolve on Earth, but the seeds of what you became were planted long before. The Flame Bearers visited many worlds, and on some they left descendants. The largest dragon's great head tilted as it studied Hyunwoo more carefully. Earth was one such world. It continued. The Flame Bearers found early humans and saw potential in them. They shared their essence, their inner fire with your ancestors. Then they disappeared into the deep void, leaving their children to grow and develop on their own. More images flowed through Hyunwoo's mind. He saw the Flame Bearers saying goodbye to primitive humans, promising to return someday. He saw the humans they left behind slowly forgetting the truth of their enhanced nature, remembering it only in myths and legends about dragons and fire. Your species' ability to adapt and survive. Your refusal to give up even in hopeless situations, your inner strength, the dragon said. These are not normal evolutionary traits. They are gifts from the Flame Bearers, passed down through countless generations. Hyunwoo thought about his time in the Velkari prison ship. He had refused to break even when tortured and threatened. The aliens had been surprised by his resilience. Now he was beginning to understand why. The Velkari and other galactic races instinctively fear humans, another dragon explained. They do not know why, but some deep part of their minds recognizes the old power sleeping within your species. That is why they try so hard to convince themselves that humans are weak and primitive. The great dragon moved even closer. Its enormous eye was now only a few inches from Hyunwoo's face. In its depths he could see reflections of ancient fires and forgotten worlds. You carry the bloodline of the Flame Bearers, it said. That makes you our kin, our long-lost family. We have waited millions of years for your kind to find their way back to us. Around the cave, other dragons began to move. One by one, these ancient and terrible creatures began to lower their massive heads toward the small human standing among them. What are you doing? Hyunwoo asked. We are giving you the recognition that is your birthright, the largest dragon said. You are not just Lieutenant Park Hyunwoo of Earth. You are Hyunwoo Flame Bearer, descendant of the first fire, heir to an alliance older than the stars. The dragon's head touched the ground in front of him in what was clearly a gesture of respect and acknowledgement. All around the cave, dozens of other dragons did the same, their massive forms creating a circle of bowed heads around the small human. We pledge ourselves to you and your species, the dragon continued, as we pledged ourselves to the original Flame Bearers. Your people are under our protection now and forever. Hyunwoo felt something changing inside him. It was as if a door had opened in his mind, letting in light that had been blocked for his entire life. He could sense the dragons around him more clearly now, feel their ancient wisdom and power. "I can hear you all," he said in wonder. "Your voices are clearer now. The recognition awakens the sleeping gifts in your blood," the dragon explained. "You are beginning to remember what your species truly is. This is only the beginning." Other dragon voices joined the conversation in his mind, welcoming him, sharing their excitement at the return of the flame bearers. Some of them had memories that stretched back to the time when humans and dragons last worked together. "Your species has grown strong during your time alone," one ancient female voice said. "You have spread to many worlds and developed technologies we never taught you. The flame bearers would be proud of what their children have become. But you are still in danger," the largest dragon warned. "The galaxy fears what it does not understand. And species like the Velkari will try to destroy humans before your true nature is widely known." Hyunwoo thought about the aliens who had captured him, who were probably still orbiting above them waiting to see his death. "They expect me to be killed," he said. "Yes," the dragon said, "and perhaps it is time to show them what happens when someone threatens the children of the flame bearers." The great creature raised its head and looked up toward the cave ceiling, as if it could see through the rock to the ship above. "It has been a long time since the galaxy has seen the true power of the dragons," it said. "Perhaps it is time for a reminder." Around them, the other dragons began to make low rumbling sounds that grew louder and deeper. The entire cave began to vibrate with their combined voices. Hyunwoo realized they were not just making noise. They were communicating with dragons on other parts of the planet, and perhaps on other worlds entirely. "What are you doing?" he asked. "We are calling our kin," the great dragon said. "It is time for the galaxy to learn that humanity is no longer alone." The deep rumbling of the dragons grew louder and more complex. Hyunwoo could feel the sound in his bones, in his chest, in the very air around him. It was not just noise, he realized, but a form of communication that traveled through the planet itself. "We are sending word to every dragon in the known galaxy," the largest dragon explained, its mental voice calm, despite the thunderous sounds filling the cave. "The flame bearers have returned. The old alliance is restored." Around him, the massive creatures continued their ancient song. Some of the younger dragons had scales that glowed brighter as they added their voices to the call. The crystal formations in the cave began to resonate, creating harmonics that made the entire cavern sing. "How many dragons are there?" Hyunwoo asked. "More than the galaxy suspects," the great dragon replied. "We learned long ago to hide our true numbers. Most species believe we are extinct on all worlds except this prison planet. They are wrong." Through the mental link he shared with the dragons, Hyunwoo began to sense responses to their call. Dragons on distant worlds were answering, their voices carried across the void by methods he could not understand. The network of dragon communication spanned the entire galaxy. "They are coming," a younger dragon said excitedly. "Dragons from the rim worlds, from the core systems, even from the hidden sanctuaries in dark space. They have heard that the flame bearers walk among the stars again." The largest dragon, who had told Hyunwoo his name was Igniston, began to share more knowledge with him. Images and memories flowed directly into his mind, showing him things about human history that no one on Earth knew. "Your species has grown beyond what even the original flame bearers imagined," Igniston said. "You have adapted to survive in environments that would kill most galactic races. Your technology may seem primitive to others, but it is built on principles of resilience and innovation that are uniquely yours." Hyunwoo saw flashes of human colonies on distant worlds, Earth Defense Force ships exploring unknown systems, human scientists making discoveries that more advanced races had missed. "The Velkari and others like them see only your youth as a spacefaring species," another dragon added. "They do not understand that youth can be a strength. You approach problems with fresh thinking, without the limitations that older races have placed on themselves. But they will try to destroy us when they learn the truth," Hyunwoo said. "Some will try." Igniston agreed. "That is why this demonstration is necessary. The galaxy must understand that humanity is under dragon protection. Those who threaten the flame bearers threaten us all." Above them, far overhead, the Velkari ship continued to orbit the planet. Commander Thekevar and his crew were probably growing impatient, waiting for the entertaining death they had expected to record. "They think I am already dead," Hyunwoo said. "Let them continue to think so, for now," Igniston replied. "Soon they will learn otherwise." The dragon song reached a crescendo that shook dust from the cave ceiling. Then gradually it began to change. Individual voices separated from the chorus, each one reporting from a different part of the galaxy. "The dragons of the Centauri sector are moving," one voice reported. 23 ancient ones leave their hiding places. "The fire breathers of the outer rim acknowledge the call," said another. 18 wings take flight. "The deep void guardians emerge from dark space," a third voice added. 12 of the eldest answer. Hyunwoo realized he was listening to a military mobilization unlike anything the galaxy had seen in millions of years. Dragons that had been hiding for eons were revealing themselves and traveling toward inhabited systems. "Your friend Sora," Ignisthan said suddenly. "She worries about you. You can sense her?" Hyunwoo asked in surprise. "Through you, we can sense the connections you value most," the dragon explained. "She is strong-willed and intelligent, like many of the Flame-Bearer bloodline. She would make a good ambassador when the time comes." The thought of his sister brought a wave of homesickness and determination. Sora and everyone else on Earth needed to know what was happening. Humanity was about to become part of something much larger than they had ever imagined. "You must teach me," Hyunwoo said. "If I am to represent my species in this alliance, I need to understand my heritage and my abilities." Ignistan's massive eye focused on him with approval. "The learning has already begun," the dragon said. "Can you feel it?" Hyunwoo concentrated and realized the dragon was right. He could sense things now that had been hidden from him before. The emotions and thoughts of the dragons around him were like warm currents in his mind. The ancient knowledge they shared felt familiar, as if he was remembering rather than learning. "Your dormant abilities are awakening," another dragon explained. The flame-bearers could communicate across vast distances, could sense the life force in other beings, could sometimes even influence the flow of events through will alone. "These gifts sleep in all humans waiting to be awakened." "Will all humans be able to do these things?" Hyunwoo asked. "Some more than others," Ignistan replied. "Bloodlines that have stayed closer to the original flame-bearer heritage will show stronger abilities, but all humans carry the potential." The dragon song was changing again. The reports from across the galaxy indicated that hundreds of dragons were now moving toward populated systems. Some were heading for major trade routes, others toward the homeworlds of various species. "Above us," a young dragon announced, "the Velkari ship grows concerned. Their instruments detect massive heat signatures rising from the planet's surface." Ignistan made that deep, rumbling sound that Hyunwoo had learned was dragon laughter. "Let them see," the ancient creature said. "It is time." Around the cave, dragons began to move toward the various tunnel openings that led to the surface. These beings that were supposed to never leave their underground prison were preparing to emerge into the open sky. "What about the planetary defenses?" Hyunwoo asked. "I thought this world had systems to keep the dragons contained." "Those systems were built by younger races who did not truly understand what they were trying to contain," Ignistan explained. "We allowed ourselves to be imprisoned here because it suited our purposes. We wanted the galaxy to forget about us while we waited for the right time to act. And now is the right time? The return of the flame-bearers makes it the right time," the dragon confirmed. "Your species has reached the point where you can stand as equals with us again. The galaxy is ready for the old alliance to be restored." The first group of dragons reached the tunnel openings. Their combined body heat was already causing the rock above them to glow red-hot. "Commander Thekvar is about to receive a very big surprise," Ignistan said with satisfaction, "and through him so will the rest of the galaxy." Hyunwoo felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Everything was about to change, not just for him but for all of humanity. "Are you ready, Flame-Bearer?" Ignistan asked. Hyunwoo thought about his sister, his fallen teammates, and his duty as a soldier of Earth. "I am ready," he said. Commander Thekvar paced nervously on the bridge of his ship as it orbited Drakmor Prime. Several hours had passed since they dropped the human into the dragon caves, but their sensors showed nothing but strange heat readings from deep underground. "Where is the entertainment you promised us?" demanded Sub-Commander Vektar, Thekvar's second in command. "The crew is growing restless. They want to see the human die." "The dragons are probably playing with their food," Thekvar replied, but his voice lacked confidence. "Sometimes they take their time before killing." The sensor operator, a young Velkari named Zekmol, looked up from his console with confusion on his scaled face. "Commander, I am detecting massive thermal signatures rising from the planet's surface. Multiple contacts, all extremely large." "Impossible," Thekvar snapped. "The containment systems keep the dragons underground. They cannot reach the surface." Sir, the signatures are definitely moving upward through the cave systems, and they are getting bigger. Tekvar moved to the sensor station and studied the readings. What he saw made his blood run cold. Dozens of enormous heat sources were moving through the underground tunnels, all heading toward the surface. It must be a sensor malfunction, he said. But even he did not believe it. Suddenly, every communication system on the ship activated at once. Not just the normal channels, but frequencies that the Velkari had thought were impossible to access. Ancient wavelengths that predated most known civilizations began carrying a signal of incredible power. The voice that filled the ship was unlike anything any of them had ever heard. It was deep beyond measure, older than stars, and filled with the authority that made every Velkari on the ship drop to the deck in instinctive fear. Velkari ship, the voice said in their own language. Though no dragon had ever been known to speak Velkari before, you have made a grave mistake. Tekvar forced himself to stand, though his legs shook with terror. All around the bridge, his crew cowered as the impossible voice continued. You have harmed one who carries the blood of the flame bearers. You have threatened the children of the first fire. This cannot be forgiven. Who are you? Tekvar managed to croak into his communicator. I am Igniston, eldest of the Drakmor dragons, speaker for the Ancient Alliance. The human you threw into our domain as entertainment is under our protection, as are all of his species. The ship's main viewer suddenly activated, showing the surface of the planet below. What they saw there would haunt their nightmares forever. The ground was splitting open. Massive cracks were spreading across the landscape as creatures of unimaginable size emerged from the deep caves. Dragons larger than city blocks rose into the toxic atmosphere of Drakmor Prime, their wings blotting out the sickly yellow sky. By the void, whispered Vectar. How many are there? The answer came as more and more dragons emerged from caves across the entire planet. Dozens became hundreds. Their combined wings created windstorms that reshaped the planetary surface. Their roars shook the Velkari ship even in orbit. Behold the power you thought was safely contained, Igniston's voice continued. We allowed ourselves to be imprisoned here because it served our purposes. But that time is now ended. The largest dragon, a creature so massive that its head alone was bigger than the Velkari ship, rose from the deepest cavern. Even through their sensors, the aliens could feel the ancient intelligence and terrible power radiating from Igniston. Your species believes humans are weak, the dragon continued. You mock their short time among the stars, their primitive technology, their small physical form, but you are blind to what they truly are. On the ship's communications array, new signals began arriving from across the galaxy. Reports flooded in from Velkari colonies, trade stations, and military outposts. Dragons were appearing everywhere, emerging from hiding places that no one had known existed. Dragons above Centauri Prime, one terrified voice reported. Massive creatures blocking out the sun. 3 ancient dragons have appeared in the Vega system, another transmission crackled. They demand to speak with our leadership. An entire wing of fire breathers surrounds our mining station, a third voice screamed. They are not attacking, but they will not let us leave. Tekvar realized with growing horror that this was happening across the entire galaxy. Dragons that were supposed to be myths or extinct were revealing themselves simultaneously, all carrying the same message. Humans are the descendants of the flame bearers, Igniston continued, his mental voice now reaching every Velkari mind on the ship. They are the heirs to an alliance older than your civilization. They carry within them the spark of the first fire, the original flame from which all dragons were born. The massive dragon on the planet's surface turned its glowing eyes upward, looking directly at their ship despite the distance. You threw Lieutenant Park Hyunwoo into our caves expecting entertainment. Instead, you have awakened an alliance that has slept for millions of years. You have reminded the galaxy that dragons still exist and that we have not forgotten our ancient promises. What do you want? Tekvar asked, though he feared the answer. Justice, Igniston replied, and a message delivered to every species in the galaxy. More dragons continued to emerge from the planet's surface. The sky was now filled with their massive forms, wings creating hurricanes in the toxic atmosphere. Some of the creatures were so large that they had to be older than recorded galactic history. The message is simple, the dragon continued. Humanity is under dragon protection. Any who harm them, enslave them, or treat them as inferior beings will face the combined wrath of every dragon in the known universe. A new voice joined Igniston's, then another, then dozens more. The mental chorus of dragon voices speaking in unison was so powerful that several Velkhari on the bridge lost consciousness from the overwhelming pressure. "We have hidden ourselves for eons, watching and waiting," the combined voices said. "We allowed younger races to believe we were extinct or contained because the time was not right. But the flame-bearers have returned to the stars, and the old bonds are restored." Through the ship's sensors, Thekvar watched as something impossible began happening on the planet's surface. A small figure in an environmental suit was rising from the largest cavern opening, supported by the careful claws of an enormous dragon. "The human," Vektar whispered. "He is alive." Hyunwoo stood on the massive claw of Ignisthan as the ancient dragon carried him toward the surface. Through their mental link, he could feel the power and determination of hundreds of dragons across the galaxy. The awakening of the old alliance was sending shockwaves through every civilization. "You have a choice, Commander Thekvar," Ignistan said, focusing his attention on the Velkhari ship. "You can be the first to carry this message to your people and to the Galactic Council. You can help establish peaceful relations between dragons and the current galactic powers." "And if we refuse?" Thekvar asked. The dragon's mental laughter was not pleasant. "Then you can join the countless others who have underestimated the power of the ancient alliances. Your bones will serve as a warning to those who come after." Around the ship, space itself began to shimmer. More dragons were arriving from other systems, using methods of travel that Velkhari science could not explain. Within minutes, the small ship was surrounded by creatures of legend. "I will carry your message," Thekvar said quickly, his survival instincts overriding his pride. "But who will believe such a tale?" "Show them this," Ignistan replied. Every recording device on the Velkhari ship activated simultaneously, capturing images of the dragons surrounding them, the massive forms emerging from Drakmor Prime, and the small human figure standing unharmed in the claws of the most feared creature in the galaxy. "Show them that Lieutenant Park Hyunwoo, whom you threw to the dragons as entertainment, now speaks for an alliance that spans the stars," the dragon continued. "Show them that humanity's age of being underestimated has ended." Hyunwoo felt the weight of destiny settling on his shoulders. He was no longer just a soldier from Earth. He was humanity's first representative to the galactic community as an equal partner with the ancient dragons. Through his mental link with Ignistan, he could sense dragons moving toward Earth itself, not as conquerors but as honored guests coming to formally establish diplomatic relations with their long-lost cousins. "My sister," he said to the dragon. "Sora and everyone else on Earth, they need to be prepared for this." "They will be," Ignistan assured him. "The dragons approaching your homeworld carry messages of friendship and alliance. Your species will no longer stand alone among the stars." The Velkhari ship began broadcasting the dragon's message across all frequencies, sending word to every corner of the galaxy. The Age of Dragons had returned, and humanity had allies more powerful than anyone had ever imagined. As Hyunwoo looked up at the stars through the toxic atmosphere of Drakmor Prime, he thought about the journey ahead. He would return to Earth not as a failed prisoner, but as humanity's first dragon speaker, herald of an alliance that would reshape the balance of power throughout the galaxy. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would the human race.